Welcome to episode 91 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today is the rest of my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What's up?
We got producer Jim Viscardi back on the couch for the first time in a long time.
Boom.
And
9 episodes to 100.
yeah, I mean, well, technically bonuses, we are over 100. This is like, but we don't do any weird comic book legacy numbering or anything like that. So
One shot.
we'll just say like, yeah, we're almost there.
90.
And over in Jim's usual seat, Mr. J.K. Schmidt is back with us.
How come I never get an introduction when I sit there?
You do sometimes.
Because you're just there supposed to be producing.
You notice me. Kofi.
I do
Kofi leaves me.
It's a special occasion.
You
I'm not
act
going
like
to take it personally.
Jim, wow. You act like you've never been part of the show, like your voice has never been allowed to be heard. Despite our best efforts, it has been. So, like, you're fine. And now you're back on the couch.
Wow.
So, you know, you kind of hop everywhere. It's not
true.
like you're being left out
That
of this
is
whole
true.
thing. So, we're here today because, well, you know, some of us are here today. We just trying to get ready and get through the holidays. It's wear and tear time, but as we get near our holiday break, there are big things to discuss today, so we're here to do the job. We're going to be talking about DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths and do a whole recap of that because that's been a pretty epic crossover event, and we really haven't touched it because we wanted to see all the parts play out before the break, and so now we've seen it and are better for it and are going to talk about it. In addition to that, we're going to review the new film, Jumanji, The Next Level. And in between, we have a lot of Star Wars stuff to talk about. There's been some developments in the Star Wars universe and franchise this week, and we're going to talk about all that. And we'll review the new X books that came out this week, New Mutants, Fallen Angels, and X-Force number 3. So, like I said, a lot to get to. Let's start off right at the top. Right before we came in here to film, we had to kind of switch up everything in the show. As you see in the background with the man with unlimited power. We just got a new TV spot for Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. And man, this is probably the biggest kind of revelatory scene that we've ever gotten from this film.
It is better than anything they have put out up to this point.
Yeah, and it's got people buzzing, and for good reason. So basically, it's a clip. You can see it on Comicbook.com. Star Wars, our Star Wars page, which is going to be hot and popping for the next week or so. So bookmark now, because we're going to have a bunch of stuff from The Rise of Skywalker about the whole franchise, looking ahead, looking back, looking forward. It is Star Wars week coming up. And like I said, you guys want to mark that down, Comicbook.com, Star Wars. JK and some other people like Patrick and a whole bunch of other people have been working hard at this. And we got a lot of special stuff for you guys, including this new TV spot.
I do want to say really quick before we go into this, because I know there are some people out there who are
that's
like
fair, that's
media
fair.
blackout on Star Wars. So I would maybe like skip 3 to 5 minutes ahead if you do not want to know anything about what we're talking about. Because
this is not technically a spoiler, but it is a very big pivotal scene of the film.
Yes.
Lucasfilm has put this out there. It's public. It's a new kind of TV clip trailer thing. So
it's going to be out there. People are going to be talking about it.
So if you don't want any knowledge of Rise of Skywalker, like Jim said, skip ahead about 5 minutes. We'll be talking about perfectly okay stuff that you can then listen to. But we're going to get into what this clip is. Good catch, Jim. So basically what this clip is, last chance spoilers, you can get off the train right now. Right now. All right, still here? So this first clip shows us Kylo Ren landing on that ice planet we saw in the trailers, the dark kind of foreboding ice planet. He's popping his lightsaber, making some smoke come out of the ice, because that's what you do. I mean, it's a nice callback to The Force Awakens. But he kind of enters this structure that it's basically the Batcave with a floating cube like Dark Knight Rises, where it makes me think that Joseph Gordon-Levitt must be lurking down somewhere in here. No, but in all seriousness, he does go down this kind of floating platform into this temple that looks very much like, if you've been watching the animated series like Clone Wars, Rebels, specifically Rebels, it looks very much like a Sith temple. And he's kind of walking through, and it's this almost kind of like horror movie scene of him just, and then you hear this music start coming on, and you're like, wait a minute, I know those sounds. That sounds very Emperor-ish. And as he's walking, he starts to hear a voice in presumably his head. It's presented as a voiceover, but it could very easily be like a voice in his head, someone speaking to him, because it's been a theme of this whole sequel trilogy. And the voice is Palpatine's, and it says, you know, at last you've come like my boy. And the big line that he basically says, I'm just paraphrasing, but he says, like, I have been the voice in your head this entire time. And you hear him speaking in 3 distinct voices, the voices of Emperor Palpatine, the voice of Supreme Leader Snoke, and the voice of Darth Vader, which might be a little Easter egg. Why, Jim? Because I know you're itching to say this.
Why? Because I think it's one. I mean, there's two things. One, I think it totally blows the was Snoke real theory like wide open. Like, he could have been totally fake. But two, they got James Earl Jones to record some new lines for Darth Vader. We may get more of that like throughout this movie, and I think that is super freaking cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's been back. He's been done stuff for Rebels and whatnot. But,
Yeah.
this is epic to hear him in the movie into dropping such a kind of pivotal line.
Yeah.
Because what this basically reveals, or hints at least, is that, Emperor Palpatine has been pulling the strings this whole time. Everything about the First Order and Kylo Ren's perceived connection to his grandfather, Darth Vader, has been Emperor Palpatine kind of mentally manipulating him, which is something that The Last Jedi really tried to foreshadow and lay out for us with the whole kind of mental connection between Rey and Kylo, Luke and the whole kind of Force illusion
Force projection
thing. This has all set the stage for what could explain Palpatine's return, how he's influenced things, what Supreme Leader Snoke was. Was he real? Was he a force projection?
Nothing force projection.
It would make that. I mean, it would contextualize a lot of the stuff that we have been complaining about throughout the sequel trilogy. Just like, I mean, there was all that criticism of the first scene of Snoke in Force Awakens because he's just a giant hologram.
Yeah.
People were like, "Well, what's that about? Why can't we like see this guy?" I mean, now that would actually make that relevant and explain that.
And then, but there was also that scene where he was shown to be like 70 stories tall, sitting in a chair at one point, and then we come to realize that he's also he was normal sized ish for whatever he
was kind of tall.
Yeah, I mean he was tall-ish,
yeah.
but there was that scene where he's sitting.
Yeah, we're talking about the Force Awakens. That's
Force
where he meets him. But that's the thing. Like, it's just a projection, an avatar that he uses to kind of.
It's whatever the Emperor needs it to be at that point.
Exactly. It's whatever the Emperor needs it to be, and to create the mythology of Supreme Leader Snoke and all this stuff. And it would also explain why he's just like the goddamn Emperor, like we've been saying since the beginning. All right.
But see, that begs the question, though. Why would the Emperor need an avatar, basically, to work through? Why does the Emperor need like a fake persona like Snoke to get his job done?
And that's the big question. Yeah, there's several looming questions to dig into. Why would he do this? My theory is that to presume that he is maybe possibly very injured and old at this point. We've been debating like what this strange chamber is in the Sith temple. It looks like it could be a kind of restoration or preservation chamber of some kind to kind of keep him going. So you kind of presume that he might need to use these other tricks like force projection and things because he can't physically get up and do the things he used to do. And the question is, why has he been grooming Anakin Skywalker, or Anakin, oh my God, don't kill me. Why has he been grooming Ben Solo, Kylo Ren this whole time? My theory is that the point of this whole saga has been him trying to get a powerful Skywalker to turn to the dark side. I think the twist is that we've been presented in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy as he wants this so he can have a powerful apprentice to rule the galaxy with. That's like what he's presented it as, and that's what he said. I don't necessarily, at this point, believe that would be the end game. If he's all worn down and decrepit, I think he needs somebody more powerful to basically, in some way, take that power or take that person over or something like that. Basically, as a means to kind of buy himself second life.
Yeah.
So I don't think.
Well, isn't that the whole? Oh God, I forget the terrible line from the prequels. The tragic tale of Darth, what's his face? Darth Plagueis the Wise, and how he, was able to bring people back from the dead, but also transfer life force.
He wanted to live forever.
Yeah.
And then it was Palpatine who killed him.
Right.
Because that was his Sith master.
Yeah. After he got the secret.
And so this is him trying to play out.
Yeah, play out that kind of resurrection in a very powerful dark side user, which would be, of course, Ben Solo, the last of the Skywalker line here. So
Could it
Is
be that
it?
the movie has a dark ending and the rise of Skywalker is the rise of Palpatine through a Skywalker /
JJ's
Ben
not
Solo?
that. JJ's not. This isn't Ryan Johnson's movie. JJ is not that great.
Yeah.
Like,
JJ himself said,
I
he doesn't
agree.
want people to think that his stories don't matter. So.
yeah. So like, yeah, he's not. JJ's definitely not that brave. So no.
That's a good way.
That would be unique and original.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Bam!
Peppery today. Peppery. But yeah, so I mean it's got us buzzing, it's got us talking, and this is classic JJ because it's a big reveal in the one sense.
Stupid mystery box.
But it's not a reveal at all in another sense, and because technically this could all be misdirection. We don't actually see Palpatine.
It could just be a voiceover.
Exactly.
That's for a TV spot.
And that would just be, again, Mr. It's not Khan, J.J. Abrams. Like,
Right.
yeah, so, but I'm choosing to believe that this is kind of a pivotal scene, but I don't think it's going to play out how we think it is. Like, it feels like we're being shown this now because it actually is not going to fit into the movie maybe in this way that we think.
Well, yeah,
it
because
is.
otherwise, why the hell would they show it? So,
Yeah.
like, why would they? You don't reveal something like that unless it's.
Not as consequential as
Yeah,
we think.
like-
So,
Well,
therefore,
the week until the movie comes out, obviously the hype train has left the station and has run around the track
Yeah.
so many times where everyone probably has their tickets by now. So I mean, why release it just to drum up more interest unless it's something that people are it's going to change their expectations for what is coming.
Well, but this is the thing, right? Like we've gotten maybe like half a second glimpses, sounds, or whatever of Palpatine up to this point, and this was a good meaty 30-40 seconds of straight up Palpatine, and it's insane that that's all they have to give. Like they don't even necessarily have to show him to us for us to be like I said, I have been pretty tepid on this movie up until I saw this TV.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like a different person
This
reacting to the Star Wars trailer.
This is what I wanted. This is like that is more the mystery and stuff that I want to see out of this movie. And it's not that I was worried we weren't going to get it, but it's nice to have that kind of comfort blanket to know that okay, no. All right, there is going to be this stuff in there. How much? Who knows? But this has got
that's
me to
the
buy
thing.
in.
This has actually
1,000%.
changed my perception about how this movie will play with Palpatine. I thought it would just be, your standard formula, like, oh, we go through this whole movie, then at the end we get to this destination, and oh, there's Palpatine, there's a big climax.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that this kind of plays out, and like in the fact that they showed it,
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel like Palpatine's much more involved in this story overall
Mm-hmm.
than we think. Like he's actually going to play a bigger role.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
because-
Let me point out that we are sitting here talking about this movie, and we've talked about it for months and months and months, and we still have no idea what it's about.
Exactly. Like,
They have not released anything
No.
to do with the plot. They have,
Nope.
Like the only thing we know is that Snoke is back and that they're going. on
Snoke
an
is
adventure
dead,
together.
fool.
We have not-
Palpatine's back.
Yeah. Well, Snoke's kind of back. Right?
Yeah, well, I guess you get away with that one now. I guess you get away with that.
Oh my
one.
God! If Snoke shows up in this movie, it's going to be the best thing ever.
We fooled you. He steps out and it's just like Snoke and Palpatine. But
then Ryan Johnson
yeah.
takes a jig out from his robe.
like I think it's gonna turn out to be like, yeah, I think he has a bigger role to play because I feel like I don't know. There's just something about the scene and the way in what he's telling him in this reveal that doesn't feel like it could come right at the end of the movie. Because what would the point be?
Right.
Maybe like, well, you went on this old quest, and it was me. Gotcha. The end. Credits roll. Like no. And so like I feel like this is a kind of a hinge point that is going to completely change what we thought was going to happen in this movie.
The crazy thing, the thing that I'm concerned about just a tiny bit is how there's the plot threads are incredibly horizontal for like all of the things that are going on where we have left these characters. You've got Rey doing her stuff, you've got Kylo and his stuff, and then you've got Poe and Finn and Rose and Leia and like all of the characters kind of all doing their own thing. How is it going to weave together to presumably in the last third of the movie tell the one like to lay the runway for the plane to land?
Well, I mean, we're presuming that they have all these separate storylines when, like, most of the footage we've seen is, like, actually is them all together. It's
Right.
Rey, I mean, they actually, in the trailer say, Rey's like, I got to do this alone, and Finn's like, nah, screw all that. Like, that's done. We're doing this together. And I feel like we've seen them on the forest planet like that. We've seen them on the desert planet together.
Yeah.
We know they'll be together in that final battle with all the ships. So it's really just like the only thing that seems, and we see them finding the Death Star together. So like it seems like this movie they will be together.
It feels like
Most of the time it seems like the Last Jedi split them apart for development.
Sure.
And then this one brings them together as these new versions of
I
themselves.
feel like in the first 15, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
that all that
all
will be
great.
answered and
Yeah.
like we're done. We're gonna move forward and because
It is gonna
that's
wrap
what
it
people
up.
want to see. Like that's what I want to see. Like I'm excited to see that. I don't need you to spend an hour telling me how they get together. Just skip it, man. Just get them
Just
together.
bring 'em together.
Just get them together, man. Star Wars
Looks
wiped
like
that.
we're gonna get like I mentioned before that Return of the Jedi is one of my favorite Star Wars movies because of that final battle sequence where it has Luke fighting Darth Vader on the Death Star. It has Lando leading the X-wing fleet, the Rebel fleet, against the Death Star, and then on Endor you have Han and Leia and Chewie like leading these ground troops against stormtroopers to blow up the shield generator.
With
And it
Ewoks.
balances all three of those things so perfectly.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're gonna get something similar because you see Finn riding those weird space horses with Naomi Ackie's new character. You see Poe Dameron in an X-wing fighting against the massive First Order fleet, and then you see Rey potentially fighting the Emperor or Kylo Ren wherever they are. So it's looking like it's gonna be like a pretty interesting way in how it moves these characters into those different spots. But at least we'll get that core trio together on an adventure like classic Star Wars style.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it is going to be the Emperor. He's gone through a lot of time, but he hasn't learned anything. He's just going to be pulling a classic another Battle of Endor move where it's just all a trap. I mean, and that could be the scene we're seeing. Like Kylo Ren finds him and he gets there and it's like, well, you're here with me and we're going to do something. Rey's going to probably not be far behind if Kylo's there based on their connection. And then meanwhile, above this planet, like ships everywhere raging.
Yeah.
Like an
Giant laser.
giant laser.
He has proven he's pretty uncreative when
Yeah.
it comes to new things.
I mean, he's
Build another Death Star.
He's very
Build
sneaky.
another Death Star.
He's very sneaky, and he's very good at the kind of planning stages. But when it's time to get up,
He
it's
goes
just
all Dr.
Order
Evil.
66
Yeah.
all over again.
Max imagination that one.
Yeah. He's like, I have a master plan. We will wait all these years and then attack while we fool them into thinking they've won. Yes, that'll work again. But yeah, so Matt, very interesting TV spot. Go check that out on Comicbook.com, Star Wars. We're going to move on to another part of the Star Wars drama that's going on. Yeah, so apparently we're not done with The Last Jedi yet because the Star Wars cast has been out doing interviews as the Rise of Skywalker comes down the pike. And they've been there's been some kind of shade jabs thrown at Last Jedi from the cast and crew. John Boyega, as I put in the show notes, John Boyega opened his mouth hole and kind of got this ball rolling, kind of suggesting that he kind of took Mark Hamill's side, basically saying that he questioned a lot of what was going into the film and maybe didn't like a lot of the kind of development. But then he saw what happened because of that, and he was just like, oh no, and he had to kind of walk that back, clarify those comments, air quotes.
Not the only thing he's had to clarify.
Oh.
What? I mean, he keeps opening his mouth. He opened his mouth about Rose, and he opened his mouth like he
Him
just
talking
stop
about
talking,
said,
dude.
Did you hear what he said?
No, I didn't hear. What was the Rose thing?
He said that people on social media that maybe they're weak for how they deal with social media. And it kind of like everyone conflated that he was talking about how Kelly Marie Tran was very real, cyberbully.
Because
by
the
a bunch of
interviewer
online
brought
trolls.
up her name
Yeah.
in the question, so then he says, "Oh, well, if you're probably a little weak-minded if you're having that reaction to things." Then he apologizes, and I'm like, "Dude, stop talking." Said, "Shut up, stop
John.
talking."
I'm just amazed that no one at Disney sat these people down and were like, "Look,
Hey, nope.
please don't talk about
Right.
this. Please, if they talk about this, if they ask you about this, here's how to divert."
Just support your cast members and move on. Be like, I love Kelly. I hope she's doing all right. And, she didn't deserve that. Move on. Real easy.
Yep.
Yeah. John Boyega, I think he's getting a little tired of the Star Wars press tour. I think he's coming to the end
probably.
of his page. I think they all are. I mean, Daisy Ridley has been kind of like I'm done with the BS.
And Oscar Isaac looks bored out of his mind in every single press junket interview. Like he sits there and he looks mildly annoyed as a resting face.
I mean,
Which has me thinking his role in this movie is not going to be as big as people maybe want or even think.
The only big role he had was in Last Jedi, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect.
He should be singing Last Jedi's praises.
Exactly. Well, no, he hasn't talked about it, right?
He has.
No, he's been the one. I mean, Oscar Isaac. He knows he's a pro.
He's not.
And he's lived through something. He was Apocalypse and survived. Like, he knows how to just let it go and fade away. Like he knows how to do that Homer Simpson in the bushes move. Like John Boyega, I think is just getting real. I think they're all getting tired of this. I mean,
the interesting thing.
I mean, rightly so. They've lived through the most divisive.
Yeah.
Star Wars run of all in the most divisive era of all. Like, I'm sure they're just like...
It is just crazy to me that we have gotten basically to a week before the movie opens, and now everyone's like, oh, well, let me tell you about what I think about The Last Jedi.
Right, yeah. This
like, you couldn't make it one more week.
Oh, yeah, we're not even done. Adam Driver forgot the name of the film in an interview. He was like, and that I mean,
so
people...
funny.
And that just became, like, fuel for another flame war for trolls to be like, yep, this is how good people love The Last Jedi. The star says, and of course he can't remember. And JJ even threw a little shade at it with a little backwards JJ.
I think the JJ stuff is not necessarily out of context because JJ has for a very long time said nothing but nice things sort of about The Last Jedi. And even there's a segment of his quote before the quote where he basically kicks himself in the ass about it, where like he says some good things about The Last Jedi, and then makes what seems like a backhanded compliment about it. I think you've got it pulled up.
Yeah, I have it right here. He says, The Last Jedi is full of surprises and subversion and all sorts of bold choices. On the other hand, it's a bit of a meta approach to the story. I don't think that people go to Star Wars to be told this doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like. That's hard.
That was definitely a poor choice of words. I don't necessarily know if that was fully his intent.
I don't.
How do you get that from that?
Yeah. What? That it's a.
That it's not his intent. I don't know. I feel like that second part is very purposeful.
Like, I think so. Like, I feel like he doesn't agree with Rian Johnson's whole approach to Star Wars is basically what that boils down to. Like,
he read the script before the movie was made. He said he read the script and he loved it. He said, and he wished he was the one making it.
Yeah.
So
like
it just feels like Disney and Lucasfilm and the people involved are doing a lot of backtracking when it comes to The Last Jedi because they don't want that same backlash for
because they want the people who hate The Last Jedi to be to know that this movie is not The Last Jedi.
And I think that's an insidious thing about Hollywood is like I think there's what you privately say and stuff, and then there's what you're forced to go out and say in public, and that's always a shady thing. And so I believe the person who told the anecdote that I know JJ it was Greg Grunberg. Gunberg. Yeah, I don't want to butcher his name, but I did anyway. Greg Gunberg, who plays one of the pilots in the sequel trilogies from Heroes. You've seen him around. So he he's friends with JJ, and he said he saw when he got the script for Last Jedi and said, man, I wish I would have made that, which is something he points out because J.J. Abrams never really says that. And so, like, this was a rare case that he remembered. And I believe him. I believe that happened. I think that he didn't mean to throw... I think J.J.'s very careful and a media pro. And I think he was just trying to do what Jim is saying, which is sell The Rise of Skywalker as, this is not The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And he chose some words that he kind of picked out.
Yeah.
But he did kind of throw Rian Johnson under the bus.
And so
it was immediate.
With those
people
words,
took those things immediately and just blew it up on Twitter and social media and said, like, this is proof that like Rian Johnson sucks. And that's so bad. Like, you can't, I know you have to sell this movie and it's a tricky thing to do, but like, you got to really take some care to preserve your co-stars and co-workers, especially after you saw what happened to them on like the level of bullying. Like Rian Johnson is a Jedi because he has remained, if he's not like taking like hitchhikers and like killing him in his basement by now, like I'd be amazed because he has just seemed so serene and well adjusted in dealing with
here's
this.
The thing,
like,
too, right? Where you
like, where's your outlet coming from? Like,
if you look at everyone who was involved in The Last Jedi, from director to actors to whoever, the actors are the ones that have the biggest problem because Rian Johnson has been able to go off and continue making movies like Knives Out, which everyone loves, right? And what has Daisy Ridley done that everyone has loved? What has John Boyega done that everyone has loved since
Pacific
The Last
Rim
Jedi?
Uprising and Murder on the Orient
Exactly.
Express.
They're going to be like, they're, well, I understand that, but like that's what I'm saying. Like,
They don't have an outlet.
Right. Though they don't have the outlet or they're frustrated that they're making poor career choices. Like Rian Johnson would brush it up. He continues to brush it off where he's just like, yeah, come at me. Whatever. You don't like The Last Jedi? Whatever. Plenty of people did. Go see Knives Out.
Pretty much, right.
They're also under lock and key of making these Star Wars movies.
Well,
right
absolutely.
now. Like,
Sure.
Yeah. They're not going to like hop into the Marvel franchise yet.
No.
Like, I mean, they're going to all have good futures in the movies. Like,
But if
I'm not
that's your
worried about
biggest problem, that people didn't like your Star Wars movie, then I really have no sympathy for
Yeah,
you.
I know. These people are going to have massive careers, and I'm like the FDA when it comes to film. Like, I don't believe anything until like about 10 years have passed, and we can look back then and be like, now, because I'm really curious, and I still maintain where we are right now with Last Jedi is not where we're going to be in 10 years.
Oh,
It's all
absolutely.
separated. When a new entire crop of people come to Star Wars without any of this stigma, without any of the baggage of the trailers and the secrets and the theories online, and they just get to sit down and watch all this, I'm going to be really curious where Last Jedi pops
Very
out.
true.
It could easily pop out to the top of the top, like the top of the pile, just like Empire.
I was gonna say, like you're gonna see it on the site. Revenge of the Sith is much higher in the Comicbook.com Star Wars movie rankings than I think any one of us have anticipated.
Yeah.
You say that like it was a surprise for you, like you didn't put it at the
love that
top of
movie.
your list.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're wrong.
wait,
Jim
I
always
tried
tries
to
to
destroy the
throw
bell
a spin
curve
in here.
by- but
Wasn't it your
but
number one?
It is
Yeah,
my
he's
number
pushing
one.
his
I love
agenda
that.
right now.
Look, I love that movie.
You
But
might have
be
said
honest,
kind of like
it's
a Senate
still-
hearing right now.
It's
Like
still in the bottom half.
through, like
It's still in the bottom half, but it's higher than Solo, so it has that going for it.
all right. So if you want to see all this stuff, we have this Last Jedi. I mean, if you want to dip back into this, we have the controversy that's popped up on Comicbook.com Star Wars. You can check that out. All right, when we come back, we are going to deep dive into Crisis on Infinite Earths, talk about the new Xbox, and give a quick review of Jumanji: The Next Level, so don't miss any of that. All right, so the Arrowverse. I mean, to me, the Arrowverse, it's running on fumes at this point.
I have not given two poo-poos about
Yeah, please stop cursing on the show.
Self-censored.
about
Oh my god.
the Arrowverse until Sunday night.
Yeah, no, and Crisis has changed all of that. I tried to catch up before it. I couldn't do it. I just had to.
You did, and here's the thing: you don't really need to.
No, they recap everything you need to know before they start an episode.
Yep,
like I
it
was
was
telling Janelle.
beautifully done.
Like, yeah, and so yeah, you'll get caught up real fast. But Arrowverse has been like for me one of the best crossovers. Superhero crossovers I've seen. Definitely the pinnacle of DC television. Like for me. Even with like, all the Titan stuff and stuff, this has just been like really incredible. I liked for part 1, I liked part 2, but part 3 was, I was Russ Burlingame, who's like our DC TV guru. I was on contacting him throughout the episode in real time, and I was at it for like half the episode for about 30 minutes before I was like, I got to put my phone down and just finish this because it was just moment to moment awesome stuff. So we're going to recap Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is going to be a full spoilers discussion. If you have not seen Crisis,
You can
go
watch
see
it right now on the
streaming
CW
on
site,
free on the
streaming.
CW website. Go check that out because it is definitely worth seeing. So, all right, in full spoiler territory. Yeah, I loved how this is just kind of right off the bat started. I like how it started with all these awesome cameos as the Earths were getting wiped out by the antimatter wave. We got to see Burt Ward. We got to see dude from
deliver a
Batman
classic
89.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
And
Yeah.
dude from Batman 89 who played the reporter.
Oh yeah, that was great too.
Yeah, and I love the universes like Universe 67 or 66 for Batman or 67
Yeah,
I forget what it
89
was.
for
89 for Batman.
Yeah.
We saw the Titans universe get wiped out.
Saw Birds of Prey.
Yeah, we saw,
Yeah,
that was later on.
That was
the
awesome.
first episode.
That was awesome.
Spoiler, sorry.
No, the first episode, but each episode opens with some iconic cameo of person from the DC TV universe past and like getting their universe wiped out. But we'll just talk about it as a whole. We don't need to separate it. So we saw those awesome cameos. Me and Matt were talking though. The most heartfelt one I think so far was there were two for me. Smallville one with Tom Welling. Such a great scene.
Yeah.
Such a great scene. Basically, John Cryer's Lex Luthor goes back from Supergirl, goes over to the Smallville universe because he takes the Book of Destiny. He's been going through the multiverse trying to kill all the Supermen just to, sate his personal vengeance, So he finds Clark Kent, Tom Welling, who's just out chopping wood in his Smallville farm. and they have this great Lex Luthor Superman
That was so good.
hero villain kind of exchange with Lex boasting what he's done and like, I hate you in any universe, and Tom Welling's just kind of looking at him like, right, like, yeah, okay.
One of the best lines is when he says, "Man, I don't miss these conversations.
I don't miss the speeches." Like, yeah. He's like, but then like Lex tries to use the book on him and is like, he can't do it. And he's like, what? He's like, what's going on? And he's like, well, I'm no longer Superman. And he's like, what? You're a god. You gave up your power. Like, why would you? And he steps on like a little toy jump truck. And then from the farmhouse, you hear like two little girls playing. And Clark Kent just kind of points. He's like, well, you know how it is. He's like, and it's very endearing. Like, and it's very meta too. It was so great because it was Tom Welling basically doing a scene that said, guys, I'm no longer care about this Superman
I am
stuff.
done.
It was so good though.
Done.
I'm not Superman anymore. Leave me alone.
Like when he came on, right, to this project, like he read the script and he literally looked at like the writers and were like, wow, I have to give you guys credit for like writing a script I can't say no to. Because like the main writers on the show were huge Smallville fans. So they literally wrote that just specifically, like that was like two fans just doing whatever they could to make their ultimate thing, right? And it feels that way from the music. The minute that scene starts, the music
Oh, no,
hits,
it was very Smallville. Like,
you know, she walks up, Lois walks
Erica
up,
Durance, like,
oh my
comes
god,
out.
who is my Lois? But then like Lois, like current Lois, walks up and is like,
Liz
what's with
Tulloch.
the firefighter? Like she says some comment about why is he so bulky? Next to
Dude, there's some,
Superman.
and then like Tyler Hoechlin like looking at him and being like, dude, like, because he's like significantly smaller.
I could do that
than
with one
Tom
hand. Like he's
Yeah.
like all those little things are perfect. Like there's such a cool vibe.
Yeah, and when Lex tries to punch him when he knows he's not Superman, Tom Welling catches his hand and just clocks him. He's like, oh, I'm still bigger. He's like, I'm still stronger. Like, oh, that's nice.
Such a cool scene.
Yeah, he just kind of like walks off and he's like, forget all this. And he just goes in the house with Lois. And that was like the perfect epilogue to Smallville ever.
I also really love John Cryer's.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty good.
He is good.
And that's the other thing I wanted to address. I think the other thing Crisis has done is actually convinced me to maybe check out certain parts of the Arrowverse shows I've stopped watching, like, or haven't watched. Like, I think this has been a great thing for Ruby Rose's Batwoman, if nobody else, who's been like really kind of a great addition to this crossover. And her presence actually feels like Batman is part of this whole thing. And she nails that kind of role as Kate Kane, but like fulfilling that Batman role that you would expect in a DC hero team up. Like kind of more cynical, kind of just more practical, always like scheming on a scheme and like trying to stay one step ahead of people like Lex and like, and it's just great. And
I also think it's been really good for Iris.
Yeah, Iris has been good.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it makes all these people, and especially like a lot of the Arrowverse, they even, without having to do a whole A-Force team up, like it has shown a lot of respect to the women of the Arrowverse and what they bring to the table and like, you know, what they do, either as superheroes or just support systems like Iris, and why she's important and all of that. And I do want
to go back to the Batman of it all because I think there was a very cool twist with Kevin Conroy's Batman.
Yeah, so Batman the Animated Series star Kevin Conroy makes an appearance as
Bruce Wayne in a Kingdom Come type getup, not Kingdom Come Batman, but a future Batman.
Like a little Easter egg ode to that, to him being in the kind of mechanical race in a universe where he just finally snapped and killed all the villains.
This is a bad Batman.
Yeah, this is basically like Frank Miller's
Batman
Dark Knight Returns universe if Batman had just gone nuts and like actually killed everybody.
And he killed Superman.
Yeah, which is that was
and
so
he kept
chilling.
the trophy too. Those dark.
And how he killed him is so. He took him out as Clark Kent. Well, they allude to it like being an epic fight to them, but it looks like from just piecing the dots together, it looks like in the end he just assassinated him. He just shot him with a kryptonite bullet in the face through his glasses. Like so, when he was Clark Kent, presumably, which is cold-blooded Batman.
And if Batman were a killer, that would be exactly what he did.
I'm not going to fight you again. That hurt last time.
Yeah, I thought that was I was not expecting that twist, and I thought that was really interesting because it made that, like, I haven't loved, like, some of like the Kingdom Come like Superman moment I wasn't real jazzed about and loved that.
I thought it was just fun to see Brandon Roth.
It was cool,
It wasn't
it's just like
meh. And they actually did a pretty good TV budget Superman Superman fight.
On that budget, absolutely. Though I will say, I think one of the coolest battle sequences is actually the battle sequence where, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but you know, part of this story does center around Oliver.
Oh yeah,
it does center around, you know, people kind of knew that this would be in a lot of ways a sort of send off or whatever, and seeing like that battle sequence where he's the last one and like runs out of arrows, like there was a lot there. That was a cool sequence.
Oh, we've even talked about all the cameos. Oh man, I don't know if we're gonna get to the X-Men books. I want to do that too today. But we also saw.
They weren't that great this weekend.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we'll skip the X-Men books. Let's talk more.
Spoiler, they weren't that great.
Yeah, John Wesley Shipp from the '90s Flash series. That one got me in the heartstrings when it's revealed. So Barry Allen's had this whole kind of doom proclamation hanging over him, sort of Damocles, since the beginning of the Flash. That he's
Since episode 1 of the Flash.
Yeah, she's going to disappear in Crisis. The Flash will disappear in Crisis. So he gets
4 years ago that the egg was planted.
Yeah, and so like we get there to the anti-monitor's antimatter wave generator, which is powered by none other than the Flash running on a cosmic treadmill kind of thing.
Gosh, I hate that thing. But
yeah, I hate it too. But I was like, this is awesome right now.
Yeah,
like,
they did it well.
I was like, they're using the cosmic treadmill. I was like, ew, but like they made it really cool. So we find out it's not Barry Allen Flash. It's Flash. It's the Barry Allen from another Earth, Earth 97 or whatever, 96, whatever the year of the Flash series. And it's John Wesley Shipp, who appears in the Flash often, but back in his original Flash costume as Barry Allen from the 90s. So awesome. And like, he actually sacrifices himself in place of Barry Allen. And before he does, we get a flashback.
That was so
That's
cool.
got me in the heartstrings because I remember that scene. I was telling Jim, it like triggered me. I was like, ugh, I was a kid in the 90s again. And seeing that kind of scene between him and Iris in the old 90s show before he dies, like, I was like, oh man, this is like my childhood coming full circle. It was great. That was just such an awesome cameo. And we got Black Lightning finally in the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
And man, him and Cress Williams and Grant Gustin did some great scenes.
Like, I like that it wasn't just hey, he's in the corner.
Yeah,
like they actually had him doing stuff. The interactions with him,
the
rest
dramatic
of the
part
team
was
cool.
really good. Like them talking about their dead fathers and that connection, and that they were both murdered by an enemy, and like all of that stuff, and family we've lost. Like, and just seeing like Barry Allen and him really kind of come to respect each other as like friends and heroes in this crazy moment. It was great. I hope Black Lightning is in the mix a lot more because I mean, he's a really great addition to him because he has that stature, Cress Williams, like, and he plays that educator, like kind of lean on me, Morgan Freeman guy.
And dude
really
looks like a freaking superhero.
Yeah,
yeah, he does.
And so
built like that.
he just adds something really great to that.
That's actually one of the things I love about the cameos is that a lot of them, like, you get some that are just because of the time limit of like the world has to go. That's a short one. But like the way Ellis is worked in here, like as Lucifer, and that whole exchange,
That whole scene, like we gotta talk about that.
Oh yeah, we were getting into that next.
that whole scene is
they're
phenomenal.
They're organically worked in like very logical steps. I mean, they feel like asides because we don't have to go here. This. We could just go to purgatory, but like, it makes it so much fun. Like, it does. Where they go to Earth. Okay, so the other piece of this is Oliver Queen dies defending Earth 38, Supergirl's Earth, before he gets
It's
wiped
really
out.
well done, by the way.
Yeah. And so they like are going to bring him back using the Lazarus Pit. It's a familiar thing, but they can't have him be insane. They need to get his soul back from wherever it is, and so that requires Constantine to make an appearance. Matt Ryan to come back as Constantine
Anytime
again.
he's on there.
Yeah, Golden, and he needs some help getting into purgatory to get this soul back. So who do they have to go to see? They got to hop over to Earth 66 and go see Lucifer from the Lucifer TV series. And what's his name? I forget the actor's name.
It's Tom Ellis, right?
Tom Ellis.
Tom Ellis, who had been lying to everybody for months. Saying, stop asking me. I'm not in Crisis.
It's like we saw him on set and he was like, no, I was just visiting friends.
No, definitely in Crisis. And him in a scene with him and Constantine just talking trash to each other and maybe alluding that they maybe slept together at some point.
Yep.
That
That has been the one thing that everyone's like, oh, how are we never going to see it? Because when Lucifer got canceled and moved to Netflix, everyone was like, oh man, we're never going to see that Lucifer Constantine moment to see if we can actually ship those two. And sure enough, it got delivered in Crisis.
And it was great. And like, and just, man, just him just messing with like with Mia, Oliver's son, and like reading her such a hard ass, and like he kind of makes her like feel all vulnerable.
It's so good.
Like, this is so good. And it's just like, moments like that are just so payoff. I just kept like having like total geek outs during this episode because I looked down, I was like folding laundry, I'll look down and look up and be like, oh oh my god.
Well, that for me, that was like the moment that Jim Corrigan is mentioned in shows.
Oh man, we didn't
And
even
then,
see
the freaking Spectre.
Didn't get there.
Right?
So that's like appearance on appearance. That whole storyline with Oliver Soul, you're like, this could be the really boring part of this.
Right.
Then they go see Lucifer, you're like, oh my god, that's cool. Then they get him out of purgatory. They have like a standard Arrowverse moment. You're like, all right. And then as soon as they're about to leave, and you're like, okay, well this segment's over. He's like, hi, I'm Jim Corrigan. Like, you've got to come with me. And you're like, oh my God. Like, the Spectre's in this too. Like, oh.
Was that character appear in anything before?
I couldn't remember if that was.
Spectre was supposed to in Constantine, wasn't he? Or did he show up in?
He did show up in Constantine, but I can't remember if it was the same actor. I'm having a total.
Because that's the one thing that felt out of place is he's just like, by the way, I'm the Spectre.
The Spectre did show up in Constantine, but I can't remember if it was the same.
Yeah, I can't
and he
remember.
was supposed to have a way bigger role
in the next season that would have been on
Never
NBC.
happened.
Yeah.
But that was still like so cool to just pull that and go, oh yeah.
But now Stephen Amell is back as
The Spectre, yeah.
Which again is just like, oh. It's like one of those things that's like, it's, oh my God, it's so comics, but it's like, it's comics on TV.
He doesn't need to change that green hood.
Wasn't Green Arrow Spectre at one point in the comics?
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern. Oh, that's a flip. It was Green Lantern.
Right.
And Green
Hal
Arrow
Jordan and Ollie.
confronted him. Like, I remember that. I knew I'd read that.
He doesn't need to change his hood. He has that green hood already. He's good.
Hey, the budget's been stretched for this one.
I gotta say, speaking of him, I thought that for someone who has not cared about Arrow in a minute, like coming in, I was like, okay, I'm ready for this chapter to be done. Do whatever you're gonna do with Mia, but like I thought that scene when he actually is on the table and all the heroes are around and like Mia's there, I thought that was supremely well done. One, because he slips in the still find your mother. Like he hits all the points that he's supposed to hit for like setup, but he does it in a really, I feel like that was like one of Amel's best performances on this show.
No, he's done a good job. I mean, they coming in, him and Grant Gustin are put in work for this.
Like his whole, it's not time yet. Like, did you get everybody off? It's not time yet. And they like still hits. Like that's stuff.
I know. I mean, he's bringing it home, Stephen Amell. I mean, he's putting in the work for this last run. And yeah, he's been great. And like, Kara and Batwoman almost facing off. That was
we need more of
good.
those two.
Yeah,
those two together.
Yeah, they need a world's finest shows. I think. I'm serious. I think you could fix like even if you just took a season, like to give the actual paying for both independent shows a break, and just did a season where it's just the two of them doing a world's finest. I think that'd be the best.
They're great
thing
together.
you could maybe do for both those franchises right now.
They play off so well with each other, and then we get to the cliffhanger.
Yeah,
which is like, well, I thought it was such a cool twist because when it starts happening, and I'll let you run down, but like
no, go ahead. I mean, take that home. Like
no, I mean, I just
vanishing point.
Yeah, like, doing the vanishing point and having these like 7, paragons, 7 paragons, and then for like all of a sudden, Superman just starts like fading away, and then and then Crier pops up and he's like, yeah, I just wanted to be a jerk. Like he does it just to be a jerk. And essentially he's like, all right, so I rewrote the ancient prophecy. What's next?
Yeah. Like, oh, what's next?
That's a great
setup. He
took a Sharpie and wrote Lex Luthor.
He was so happy though to be there. And he's just like, all right, so what are we doing? I'm like, okay, that's a great cliffhanger. It's a great way to
now they got to work. So all of existence gets wiped out by the Anti-Monitor, who uses a Harbinger. And what is a pretty freaky scene, actually.
Ooh, white eyes.
Yeah, like with Layla Michaels, who becomes Harbinger, she gets kind of co-opted by the Anti-Monitor, and the Monitor sacrifices himself to kind of get by Pariah time, Harrison Wells Pariah time to send the Paragons to Vanishing Point, which we haven't seen since like early Legends seasons. And I forgot. Was I the only one who like when they went there at first was like, "Isn't this the head of a Celestial?" And was like, "No, wait, that's something else." But Vanishing Point, and so they're the only things left in existence because physical existence has been wiped out. All the Earths are gone. And so they're at this pocket outside time and space, and they've got to try to now mount a battle against the Anti-Monitor and kind of fix all this. And it's supposed to be the Paragons. They include Sarah Lance, Batwoman, Supergirl, The Flash, Oliver Queen, Ryan Choi, who's like a human character scientist who's going to have some kind of role to play, a few other people, and then it's supposed to be Brandon Routh's Superman Kingdom Come Superman. And Lex Luthor just makes him disintegrate and takes his place. So
now I have, because I'm a little behind on the shows, Ryan Choi, has he become the Atom yet?
He
No.
is introduced here.
Yeah, this is the first time we
was
meet
his
him.
first
yeah.
one. Okay.
So he made.
I
the
assumed
company
he had
Atom,
been introduced before, and I was
but
like,
no,
oh, okay.
he has. It was introduced during this.
Okay.
They set it up because remember he says to Palmer that like his whole thing about molecular blobbly book was
Yeah.
like what informed his own studies on shrinking.
Okay, I just assumed he had been introduced in a show at some point. And
Nope.
missed it. Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, they got budget for real Atom maybe finally.
Hey,
Real Atom. Not some weird miniature Iron Man suit we can see throughout. So, yeah. So we're going to take a look at that. But, yeah, if you can't tell from our discussion, like, Crisis has just been, like, wall-to-wall geek out fun. And as I tweeted, like, this is why I stuck with the Arrowverse this long. I might have dropped off a few shows. I might have gotten behind on a few. But this is why I stuck with
pays
it, because this was the payoff. And it is paying off so far.
I was thankful that because I only stuck with one. I stuck with Legends, like hardcore
It's just been
Legends all the
interesting-
way. But yeah, like you could still get
the
a lot
build
from this.
that they've had from crossover event to crossover event. Like, I don't know how you do another one that's bigger than this. Honestly,
I mean,
Like,
there's
you know-
DC stories.
yeah, sure,
Like,
but like,
It'd be interesting to see, like, a Batgirl Tower of Babel story or something like that. Like...
I feel like you almost need to do something like that, like something a
something
little
that
bit
really
more personal
brings it
and bring
down.
Yeah.
Well, Elseworlds wasn't as big as like
No.
Earth X, for instance.
Yeah,
like, they kind of
sure.
scaled down for Elseworlds just
And
to
they've-
set up Crisis, and it kind of alternates. Really, it's like a big one, and then kind of a smaller one, and a big one, and kind of a smaller one.
And that's great because
Yeah.
then you can do, if you want to do Infinite Crisis, or who knows, in 2 years, if the Arrowverse is still going and we can somehow get a Green Lantern in the mix and get Blackest Night. Like, there are certain
Yeah.
things
Oh,
that you
Blackest
can
Night
do,
would be
right?
crazy.
That would be a great event,
Yeah.
but you take a break for a year, maybe get a Lantern in the mix at some point, and then you can do something like that.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, this has been the biggest so far, and it's been great. So.
Also, props to that Death of Superman recreation.
Oh yeah,
That was great.
I mean, we could spend a whole
Yeah.
episode just talking all of the Easter eggs that are just like thrown in all over the place, and they're so great.
Yeah.
And they're like, if you've been a DC fan for a long time, like, yeah, there's so much payoff to this. So check that out. Crisis, streaming free on the CW site. Go check it out. All right, we're going to end today with a real quick review of Jumanji, the next level. It's going to be real quick because I'm the only one who's seen it, so this is going to be very easy. We had Brandon Davis who saw it and met the cast and talked with The Rock and all that, but he's under the weather today for unknown reasons, and so we are going to carry on in his place. I'll say that Jumanji, the next level, is if you loved the reboot, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, this is a rare case of a sequel that arguably kind of improves upon the first one because I think it realizes its strength. It's not so much about the video game of it all because we've now established that in the first film. That's what it hinged on. The first film was just going through the hijinks of being in a video game and like being an avatar and all that, and how that was mismatched to the personalities of the actual real people. And having these actors kind of play that up, like Jack Black is a teenage girl, whatever, and Kevin Hart's an actual huge football player and a tiny little Kevin Hart body and all that stuff, and a nerd is The Rock. So, in a kind of shy girl is Karen Gillan in a midriff and looking buff and tan. So, what this does differently is introduces some new characters. The main two being Danny DeVito and Danny Glover as two characters. I'm not going to give away many spoilers, but Danny DeVito is the main character, the nerd kid's grandfather, and his old friend is Danny Glover. And they get sucked into the video game. And Jumanji 2 is like, it is nonsensical as a plot. It's just get out of Jumanji again. So not a lot there, right? Mm-hmm. But what makes this movie work and actually makes it really fun and funny is seeing these actors imitate one another and kind of play that up. It's so much funnier in this time because Danny DeVito and Danny Glover bring these personalities that make it so just enjoyably funny when the other actors are playing them as the video game characters. With like Kevin Hart as Danny Glover, like steals the show in this. Because Danny Glover's character is this kind of whimsical old man who takes a long time to talk and is always just like kind of sounds like, oh my, like, yeah. He's just like that, like the old black guy, like stereotype classic. And it's just hilarious coming out of Kevin Hart's mouth as this video game, when he's reacting to this video game, because they play up their age. And so like half the time the guys won't accept that they're in this video game. They think they're having dementia or something like that. And the way Kevin Hart imitates Danny Glover is just spot on hilarious. The Rock's not so as good as Danny DeVito, but Danny DeVito's personality gets to hop around a few characters, and some of them are really good. other people appear, like Aquafina's in this movie and is like steals the show as a kind of one of the video game avatars. Joe Jonas is back. Like everybody comes back, and like I said, it's really great. Karen Gillan gets to play her character's the same. It's the same girl, but she's now more confident and kind of like more into this, and so that changes her role a little bit. And they eventually, there's a whole hook to that. Like they're searching for the nerdy kid this time who went back in because he's having personal problems. And so when they find him, who he is, and like all of that really is a lot of fun. And there are a lot of laughs in this. Like the adventure, the action sequences aren't really that much like anything to write home about. They're not all that memorable. But like I said, a lot of the comedic moments and the imitating moments are just so darn enjoyable that it's really hard not to like this movie.
Sweet.
So if you're looking for like kind of a family friendly, you're seeing that down the middle, family friendly, good kind of adventure, funny comedy movie, this is a good one to go check out.
That's probably going to be our Christmas Day movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect Christmas Day movie. Like you're going to go in, you're going to come out, you're going to feel good, and like you're going to have a good time. So Jumanji, and this train can just keep rolling because there's
like you said,
infinite number of ways to play with this concept and have The Rock and Kevin Hart and Karen Gillan and maybe not Jack Black because he may be retiring now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's the other thing. Not to leave him out. He's great because in this, he's Fridge this time. So he's like the huge football player kid. And Jack Black he's just a great comedic performer. Like he is so good at alternating between playing a teenage girl in this and a huge black guy football player. And you think like some of those could go really wrong, but he just nails it, especially as Fridge. He is so good.
I love Jack Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Well, and like you said, that's the strength I feel of this franchise is that it doesn't really have anything to do with the plot or the concept. It's the actors having fun in that world. You can do that 8 million times, right?
You can just keep hiring crazier and crazier people. Hire Steve Buscemi, Gary Buscemi, UC, get everybody.
I would love to see Steve Buscemi in a Jumanji movie.
And just people like force Kevin Hart to be Steve Buscemi or and The Rock to be Gary Busey. Like just do stuff like that. I mean, this train can keep running. So Jumanji, I'd probably give it like a solid 3.5. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but like I said, the main fun factor and enjoyment is there. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. If you're just now joining the show, we put up new episodes every Wednesday, every Friday. Make sure you always check out both. You don't want to miss either one. We have so much good stuff in both. So every Wednesday, every Friday on Comicbook.com, you can subscribe to our RSS feed, or you can subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Google Playlists. Tell your Amazon Alexa device to fire up Comic Book Nation podcast, or check us out on YouTube. If you want to talk to us about anything we discussed in the show, hit us up at the hashtag Comic Book Nation. You can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
At Jim Viscardi.
At Woe is Joe.
All right. I forget, do we have anything? Oh, yeah. If you're liking the show, leave us a 5-star review. It's been a good first year. We are approaching the end of season 1.
Man.
Yeah, because, February, I think, is the end will be the official end of season 1, start of season 2. Big things in the works for season 2. You always got to drop that plug. Always be selling. If you're liking the show, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Every so often, we will be reading your reviews and sending out t-shirts to those who leave us very nice reviews on that platform. So be sure to get in and get yours up on iTunes. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. This is Comic Book Nation. We're getting out of here.
Deuces.